My name is Joe Phillips. I'm Dean of the Business School. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone here. Thank you. This evening, we're really delighted to welcome Tod Leiweke, CEO of NHL Seattle, and to have him kick off the 18th year of our speaker series. The title of his presentation tonight is Building a New Sport Franchise, which no one knows more about than he does, so we're looking forward to it. But before the program, I'd like to first welcome to the stage Father Steve Sundborg, President of Seattle U. Father.
Thanks very much, Joe, and I just wanted to have a personal welcome to Tod Leiweke. I remember going over as president of Seattle University to visit with him probably about 18 or 20 years ago when you were in the Seahawks, and talking through Seattle University and where we are with athletics and about going back to Division I and what were the ways to go forward. And he was a stalwart friend for us at that time and helped us greatly with his advice and other kinds of ways. And I thought we lost him from Seattle, but we didn't. And he's back, and he's such a key person for us in Seattle and with the arena. And he's a great friend of Seattle University. I appreciate him immensely. I'm so proud of this Albers Executive Speaker Series. If you were to rank the Executive Speaker Series in the country, this would be one certainly of the top 25 in the nation. It's absolutely a phenomenal program, and that's hats off to Albers School of Business and Economics and its dean, Joe Phillips. So this is a great crowd you drew here, Tod, and they're eager to hear you, so I'm going to get out of the way and let Joe Phillips introduce you. Joe?
No, I'm going to give you your introduction, so you wait. So, before introducing Tod, though, the format is he will speak for about 15 minutes, and then we will have questions from our three panelists, who I will introduce to you in a few minutes later in the program, and then we'll go to questions from the audience. So, Tod Leiweke is no stranger to Seattle sports. He was the president of the Seattle Seahawks from 2003 to 2010. Before leaving to join the Tampa Bay Lightning. And while in Seattle, he also oversaw the highly successful launch of the Sounders FC. While he was with the Seahawks, they went to a Super Bowl. He got to be acting president of the Portland Trail Blazers, and Pete Carroll was hired as coach, among many other important things. Least of which was he was scheduled to appear in the Albers Executive Speaker Series in October 2010, but he had to bow out because of the move to Tampa, as Father referenced. But as he has now learned, it's hard to escape the clutches of the Albers Executive Speaker Series. In Tampa, he became CEO of Tampa Bay Sports and Entertainment, which included the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Tampa Bay Storm, and the Tampa Bay Times Forum. He left Tampa in 2015 to join the NFL as his new chief operating officer. And he was back to hockey in April of 2018 when it was announced he would lead NHL Seattle. His start with sport franchises was with the New York Arrows, an indoor soccer team, and he has also worked with the Minnesota Wild, the Vancouver Canucks, and Golden State Warriors. So let's welcome Tod Leiweke to Seattle U.
Well, good evening, and I'm happy to be here. And I actually have a presentation and a clicker, which is important. And this is really a story not just of an NHL team, and I see this individual walking down here with the Seattle Metropolitans trying to hide wearing that jersey. All right. But it's really a story about an arena and a challenge that we had as a community with all the great things happening in this community to fix this issue. And not being able to fix this issue cost this community a lot. Last year, in the final year of operations of the arena, Key Arena, Des Moines, Iowa had more concerts than we did here in Seattle. And this is a music-rich city. We deserve better. So we not only didn't get music shows, but a really tough thing happened that we lost an NBA team. And this was a Rubik's Cube that just didn't seem to get solved. So I want to walk you through that. I'm going to tell you all about the arena. Then we're going to talk about the launch of the team. I'm going to try and do this quickly so we can leave time for questions. But I'm happy to be here. This is, when we think about what makes Seattle great, this university comes top of mind for me. 128 years. Father, I thought you were going to say you met me at the beginning of the university, but this university is a special place, and 7,000 students can attest to that. But I think we all know that not only is this city's best days in front of it, this university's best days are in front of it. And so I'm happy to be here, and let me sort of tell you the story of the journey that this arena's been on. Seattle Center really came into being with a lot of visionaries in the late 1940s and 50s who were thinking of commemorating the 50th anniversary of a World's Fair that was here in Seattle. They were bold, they were visionary, and that's what the World's Fair was all about. It was a bold vision of what the world was going to bring, a technology. And I remember my boss, Paul Allen, talking about going there and having that really change his perception of what the world could be and his perception of Seattle. Because at that point in time, Seattle really took a front step, a leading role in the world and technology and what was around the corner. So the arena was built as a part of the World's Fair site, and lots of great things happened in that building, and lo and behold, in 1967, the Sonics came to town. And it was a heck of a run. In 1979, I believe, they won the World's Championship and brought joy and memories to people that they still recount today. But the building needed work. It was a one-surface, one-level building. It was not adequate for the NBA. The Sonics left. They played in the Kingdome. They played in Tacoma, but they came back to a renovated building in 1994. But shortly thereafter, people realized it wasn't enough. And the owners of the Sonics turned to the state and the county and the city and said, we need a new arena. And the sensibilities of this community were changing. And the sensibilities of the community were changing relative to public dollars being put into facilities like this. And the debate ensued, and it kept going, and it didn't get resolved. And in 2008, of all things, Seattle lost an NBA team to Oklahoma City. I was up in Vancouver working for the Grizzlies and Canucks. The Grizzlies moved to Memphis, and the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City, and I'm not sure that was great strategic planning. But it happened, and in the meantime, we were starting the Sounders. It was never a question in my mind of fan support. The Seahawks became the loudest stadium. The Sounders set all records for soccer in North America. So it really wasn't about the fans. It was about solving the Rubik's Cube of an arena. And the challenges were immense. The Key Arena was a city-owned asset and continued decline, not only in a physical decline, but in a perceptual decline. People looked at the arena and thought it had failed them. And buildings have souls. The building took a lot of guff that it didn't deserve because it actually was a beautiful building designed by an architect named Paul Thury, and the roof was meant to replicate a Native American rain hat and was designated a National Historic Landmark. Nonetheless, the building was deemed inadequate. But if you were going to fix it, you not only had to have it ready for the NBA's return, you had to make it work for the NHL. Very complex engineering because you had to take this roof, which raised something like, Eric, I think 40 million tons or 40 million pounds, some crazy amount of weight, and hold that in place while you built a new arena. You had to double its size to make it adequate. It had to be privately financed, and you had to deal with this idea that the roof was landmark status. In 2017, the city issued an RFP, wondering if anyone would respond, if anyone would take it on. And I'm very proud to tell you it was my brother who did. My brother who was in Los Angeles starting a new company called the Oakview Group. He developed the Staples Center and many buildings around the world. And I kept telling him Seattle was a special place. The fans were special and it could work here. He responded to that RFP and they started dreaming about what could be. And this is what came out of it. The idea of a whole new arena, an arena that would not have a back of house, an arena where parking would go underground, and we'd fix that issue that kept concerts from coming here. Believe it or not, it was a back of house issue where there were only 2 loading docks. Today, when I talk about the arena, one of the things I'm most excited about, believe it or not, are 8 loading docks that will allow shows to load in and load out on the very same day. We also felt that we could change Seattle Center and that, like this university, that Seattle Center's best days could be in front of it, because this occupied a major footprint on that campus. And lo and behold, through the great work of the architect, Populists, and M&E Engineering, and they are real heroes in this story, they developed a plan that took us from that 1962 model to the 95 renovation, which got part of the way there, to now in 2021, taking a building from 400,000 square feet to 800,000 square feet and literally building the world's first subterranean arena. An arena that is going to scale. This beautiful roof doesn't grow. It still stays in perfect context with the neighborhood it's in. The roof will get cleaned up, but under it will be a brand new, spectacular building. And one of the perceptual issues we've had to deal with is people had talked about it as a renovation. It's not a renovation. It's a brand new, spectacular arena. And it will be, we think, I say, the most beautiful arena in the world, the only arena in a park in the whole world. And the only addition allowed by Landmark Commission was a grand entryway on the south side of the arena. Where there used to be buildings and almost blight will now be the grand entryway. All of the services underground. So the building will have no back of house. 4 sides of the building equally as beautiful and welcoming fans. How you do it is tough. So we had to hire the smartest people, the smartest. This is the gentleman that actually built the baseball park. He built the hockey arena in Kent, and he's built many other things, and he's going to give a quick overview of how you do this.
When they did the expansion in 95, they kind of did a V on their excavation. We're doing straight down. That's why the building's doubling in square footage from 400,000 square feet to 800,000 square feet. This is all part of this critical stage we're at, which is getting the site ready for the full excavation. So that means a lot of the shoring work you see going on, a lot of the drilling, the piles being put in place. The shoring tower is another part of it. That shoring tower will be in place as we do this massive 600,000 cubic yard excavation underneath this iconic roof. Because as you can see behind me, the arena's gone. We've got the roof, the arena's gone, but we have to put in place all the support systems to hold that roof up temporarily while we do the excavation. Then we can reconnect the old roof.
So those footings are amazing, and a lot of architects said it just couldn't happen. It couldn't work. You couldn't do it, and that's why this struggled for so many years. But it's not only a science; it's an art. And so those engineers said, no, we think they can. And so the structures are now in place that are holding up this roof, preparing it not only for all the things that will happen under it, but for a seismic activity. So I sleep. I pray, Father, and I go to night, and my last prayer is I hope that roof holds until at least sunup. But it has, and it's magnificent, and this is what's happened. We've been able to take the footings, cut the rebar, the temporary support systems are in place. We'll now excavate all the way down. We'll rebuild those footings from 70 feet on the sides, 15 feet deeper in the middle, and reconstruct a brand new arena under that roof. And this is what we'll end up with, a spectacular arena, steeper and more intimate than the prior arena. Closer, all the seats substantially closer. 17,000 for hockey, 18,000 for basketball, and spectacular for music. People thought fondly of seeing shows in the old building, and I said, well, it's great value because you used to hear the show twice. And that's called bad acoustics. This building will be concert perfect. And one of the great things you can see here, the patrons who will walk in on the upper deck will literally walk right up to their seat. The rest of the building will cascade down. So the folks in the upper deck are going to feel like they won the lottery. And that means a lot to us because we're going to try and make this a building that every man, woman, and child in this community will want to come to. It'll be spectacular on the exterior, but it'll be also incredible on the interior. We think we're going to have one of the leading concert venues in the nation. Live Nation is our partner. And we're building this in a very specific way to host music. The artist quarters in the back to the acoustics. We think it's going to be a special building for music. We think it's going to be an incredible building for basketball, and we're so proud of the Storm and everything they represent and all their championships, and we hope that championship spirit rubs off on our team. But we'll also be home, we believe, someday for the NBA. When they come back, we're going to be ready. This building's going to be ready, and everything we're doing is with thoughtfulness about bringing the NBA back to its rightful place. We're hopeful about that, but we're absolutely sure that the NHL's coming. In 2021, the NHL will return. The fans have spoken, and it's going to be really quite remarkable. And in fact, I want to sort of take you on the journey now of that NHL team. I have a couple more slides on interiors. The building interiors are going to be spectacular. World-leading designers are designing these interior spaces, and it's really what Seattle deserves. That's our Space Needle Club. This is an image of a suite, and this is another one of our premium spaces. This is a club we're calling the Millennial Club. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it's going to be cool, it's going to be hip, and there will be different offerings there. So we're trying to create space that'll serve every segment of our population here in the city. But at the end of the day, we know we have to launch an NHL team. So we're not only building that arena and all the complexity, we're starting a team from absolutely scratch. And the first thing you have to do to prove to the NHL is that you're NHL ready and that the fan support was here. Many people question that. In Las Vegas, it took them 7 or 8 months to sell the prerequisite 10,000 tickets. Well, it took us 12 minutes. And it was really remarkable, and it was a fulfillment of what I had told my brother, that the fans here are different. These are the greatest sports fans, I think, in the world. And I witnessed it firsthand with the Seahawks and the Sounders. Well, that day was epic. I was actually working at the NFL. My brother was recruiting me hard to come back and do this. I was in a meeting with my boss. I'll never forget it. My brother wrote me a note. I didn't respond. He wrote again, and then he wrote, "It's an emergency." I got up and he said, "We just sold 10,000 tickets in 12 minutes. You got to come home." And I did. And I did because at the end of the day, this is about the fans, and we're going to reward them. We're going to reward them with a great building, but a great team. And the way we're going to do it is building out a world-class staff. And one of the biggest decisions we'll make as a general manager, this is a guy named Ron Francis. And so now with a story we had to tell on the building, this beautiful community, the amazing fan support, we felt we were in a perfect position to recruit the best GM out there. And while we acted like there were multiple candidates, there was always one in my mind, that if we could ever get this guy who is really hockey royalty, and I'll demonstrate that for you. He played in the NHL for 23 years. He was number 2 in overall assists. And in the NHL, an assist counts the same as a goal. So assist men are held in high esteem. And he was number 2 in the history of the game in assists, number 4 in overall games played, number 5 in goals scored. He won the Stanley Cup twice. He was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2007. But my favorite statistic about Ron Francis is he played on 3 teams, and he was the captain of all 3 teams. He's coming here, he's going to lead our team, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And that's what the fans deserve. Hey, if you want to applaud, you can, all right? Because that's pretty cool. And then he's now building out his team. And everything I did to recruit him, he's now using to recruit the best scouts. And I'll just point out, we're building a different kind of organization. We're the first team in the history of the league to have a woman as a scout and a professional scout. And that's Cami Granato. Our first hire in hockey was a woman named Alex Mandrecki. She's the head of our analytics. She had 3 offers from teams, but chose to come here, knowing that the GM hadn't been hired and she might not make it. Well, they have hit it off, and she is going to become one of the great leaders in hockey. And I'll just pause and talk a little bit about diversity. We have a chance to do things different, and we're trying. Eric Pettigrew is right here. Would you stand up and wave, sir? He, as he says, the uncomfortable truth about Eric is that he played for Oregon State offensive line, all right? But it's, but I was at the state capitol one day, and the state representative Pettigrew, one of the most respected state representatives, came up and didn't talk to me about state taxes or other things. He came up to talk to me about the hockey team, and I realized, oh my gosh, this guy's a hockey fan. And it not only resonated with me, but we're building one of the most diverse staffs in sports, and so I'm so proud that this guy's chosen to join us and is going to help lead the way. And next time you need a speaker, this guy is here, and he's ready to speak. But we're building that team, and we're really confident that when we pick that team in 2021, we're going to be in a great spot. We hired the GM a year earlier than Las Vegas did. and we're really excited by that. But we needed a training center, and this was a huge ask of ownership. The city of Seattle did not have one sheet of ice. There's sheets of ice around the community, but ownership got behind the idea that we needed to build a world-class training center. Somehow we ended up in a discussion with the Simon Company, who owns the Northgate Mall. They were trying to reinvent the Northgate Mall, and we had a discussion with them that led to us developing a 3-sheet facility there that's going to be world-class. It'll be a sheet for our team, but all 3 will be available for public use. We'll have 1,000 seats on one side. Administrative offices will be there. It's in 2021, the light rail will stop directly in front of this facility. As Ron has said, it's fantastic. We'll go pick up players we're recruiting at the airport, and if we cut them, we'll send them back to the airport on light rail. Here's how those 3 sheets work. And the last piece, really, in putting together the hockey organization, and sort of as I conclude my prepared remarks, is the last piece is we had to develop our AAA team, our AAA baseball team, if you will. And we looked far and wide and said, where is a unique place where players will want to go, coaches will want to coach? How can we take the success we're feeling here in Seattle and replicate that? And lo and behold, Palm Springs presented itself, a new arena being developed right in the city, the heart of the city. Ron Francis's comment on that was concerned that if we called players up, they might not want to come up to Seattle, that they'd have a golf game or the weather would be better. But here's a quick video on Palm Springs.
In 2021, professional hockey has a new home. Palm Springs. From historic Hollywood hangout to world-class destination, is now home to the Coachella Valley's first ever professional sports team. The American Hockey League affiliate to the NHL's newest expansion team in Seattle, AHL Palm Springs, making its home at the new arena at Agua Caliente in the heart of downtown. Be there in 2021. Reserve your seats now. Submit deposits for season tickets at ahlpalmsprings.com. We got fire. Bring on the ice.
The American Hockey League is a really important part of building a competitive team. It's where you'll send players to develop, and so we're really excited and think it gives us a great advantage. Here's just a couple more renderings of the building, and now I'm going to answer any questions, and I'm actually in a great mood. I'll answer any question because I'm going to Palm Springs tomorrow, all right, to work on that project. So there you are.
I really like the line about you get to hear the concert twice, by the way. I got to remember that. So we have our 3 panelists. They'll pose a few questions, and then we'll go to questions from the audience. So let me introduce them. First, closest to Tod is Hannah Greider. She's a student in our Master of Sports Business Leadership program. She's a Seattle native, and she got her undergraduate degree in psychology at Lindberg College. And she became interested in the intersection of sports and intersection of behavior in sports while being a cross-country and track and field team member there at Linfield. So she came back to Seattle to pursue her degree in sports business. She's currently an events marketing intern at Brooks Running, where she's able to apply her studies in a creative and practical way. Next is Santiago Gallo. He works as first team administrator and community involvement manager for the Reign FC, our professional women's soccer team. Santiago is an industrial engineer and native of Bogota, Colombia, and he discovered there his interest in sports and sustainability. After working for EY as a climate change and sustainability consultant, he moved to Seattle to earn his master in sports business leadership. And then finally, furthest from me is June Lindberg. She is an undergraduate senior in Albers, majoring in finance and marketing. She's primarily interested in the business of sports and entertainment. A highlight for her time at Albers was taking her sports and entertainment marketing course, which inspired her to pursue work in the Seattle sports scene, including positions with the Seattle Mariners, and Nike Seattle. So our three panelists, and Hannah, why don't you go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess initially what, you touched on this a little bit, but what kind of encouraged you to make the transition back to Seattle? You talked about the fan base, but what kind of led you to invest more in the city?
Well, when I left, I went to the Lightning, and it was a great experience. I had a chance to work with one of the great hockey legends, Steve Yzerman, who was the captain of the Detroit Red Wings for 19 years. I also had a chance to become an owner of a team, and so it was a really thrilling thing. But earlier in my life, I chaired the United Way campaign when I was here, and I convinced Roger Goodell to climb Rainier with me, and he never forgave me, so he virtually made me go to the NFL and become the chief operating officer. I actually really enjoyed it. It was a whole different perspective on a career in sports where I had worked mostly at teams and the ability to go to a league office and see such interesting things. But I grew up loving hockey, and when my brother started talking about the arena, I just cheered him on, and when I realized, oh my gosh, it's going to happen, coming back wasn't a hard decision.
Seeing the big new arena that you're building, a big question came to my mind about knowing my background in sustainability. How are you looking forward on taking care of the environment with this construction, and at the same time knowing that the Seattle people's principles are so progressive and so environmentally friendly? How do you want to educate your fans to take care of the environment, also knowing that the sport needs from ice and global warming is affecting that so much?
Well, the arena stands for the state because instead of throwing things out, we make them better. So we didn't just raise the building and get rid of it. We said we're going to fix this. And so I think it's so appropriate for Seattle that we're taking something that was once a great landmark and had fallen on hard times, and in fact, its best days will now be in front of it as well. But we have a great chance to do all sorts of things, and we want the building to be totally environmentally sustainable, leaning in on all aspects relative to everything from trash disposal to how you take food that hasn't been eaten and give it new purpose. And in Seattle, you can do these things, and you're encouraged to do them because the people here care about those things deeply. And this is a special and unique place where we have a great privilege of doing those things.
Awesome. So in conjunction with that question, I was really curious about how you and your team came up with the vision that you did. Obviously, this is a massive project. Where do you even begin with that?
Well, it started really with a need. I was heartbroken when the Sonics left, and I didn't understand it. How could we, a city that was even at that point in time growing, and this is the largest market in the U.S. without a winter team. The building cost more than we had anticipated for sure. And I think as we got into it, the owners, in fact, John Meisenbach is right here, but the owners encouraged us to just keep pushing. David Bonderman is the owner of the team, and he's in a partnership with the OVG group on the arena. OVG is 51% of the arena, and Mr. Bonderman 49%, and he owns the team. And I think once you get into it, the practice facility and the training center are an example of that we realized that, to not build a new sheet of ice was really cutting a corner if we wanted to grow the sport. You just kept believing. And at the end of the day, you have to believe in the fans. I think they really started this movement because if that day tickets had been a hard sell or deposits hadn't happened, maybe we wouldn't have been quite as bullish on this, but it's now become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I think we have a chance to build one of the great franchises in all the sports.
So speaking of the fans again, you talk about the fan base as being very important and a very neat aspect of Seattle. How do you incorporate the fans' opinions or what they're looking for when building a new franchise?
Well, you got to listen. And in fact, when I started at the Seahawks, 3 games in the brand new stadium didn't sell out. And I came the second year, and my first game with the Seahawks didn't sell out. We had 26,000 season tickets. And you know, I knew Mr. Allen very much cared about the fans, but there was something missing there. And so we just tried to take the stadium and make it a really fan-friendly place. And that started with lots of small things like getting the guest services staff to feel good about being there. And kickoff was at 1. I'd go to the stadium at 8:30 to try and cheer people on who were going to interact with the staff. And we took a flagpole and put it in the end zone, and we resurrected the 12th man tradition. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we had policies that, you know, visiting team fans shouldn't sit in the best seats. We had policies that were allowing that to happen. And we're going to have some of those same policies in what we're doing. We're going to do some very, very unique things on tickets that I'm very, very proud of. And if you believe in the fans, and, you know, to tell you the truth, I am a fan. So I remember coming home after I bought 4 club seats, and my wife said, "What, don't you get tickets?" And but I wanted to live the life of the fan and see what that was like, and there was a lot of room for improvement there at the Seahawks. But once we started doing that, it became an organizational mission, and we had such a great owner in Paul Allen, who was truly a fan. He loved the team. He wanted to see the stadium filled, and then once it started to fill, it really had a life of its own. And then players wanted to play there, and then a guy like Pete Carroll wanted to come and coach here. And so, and then the fans won, and I think Seahawk fans today are living a great life.
I've seen you work with a lot of men's sports teams and working for the Reign, and see how women's soccer has grown internationally, how the U.S. has the best team in the world, how the Reign has the best player in the world. Like, for example, a lot of people don't even know that tomorrow we travel for a semifinal. Like, how can we create this fanship here, as like the Sounders may have, or how can we develop women's sports and women's soccer around this area much more, so that the Reign, the Storm, and other clubs can be much more popular?
Well, when I met you, I saw your jacket and commented on it because I have a lot of admiration for the Reign, and Megan is one of the greatest athletes in the modern era. Sue Bird is remarkable. The Storm are going to be in a great position playing in our building. They have a great lease. They're going to be in a position to be profitable, and they can set the pace for not only the WNBA but women's professionals teams, setting the pace by having a full building and being profitable and expecting that of teams. And that's a really important thing, is that WNBA teams deserve to play in first-class facilities, and our team is going to play in what I think is going to be the most beautiful arena in the world, and it's going to have a real impact. But there's more things we could do. It's living that, and, you know, we have 9 vice presidents, 7 of them are women. And, you know, those are things that I'm really proud of that I think need to be righted in this industry, because there have been things in this business that I'm proud of, and there's some things I'm not so proud of, and we have a chance to do a lot of things right here.
So this is not new to you. Obviously, you've been in Seattle. However, with the new franchise, I was wondering, what kind of partnerships do you want to see? Because obviously, Seattle's such a hub for tech, medicine, philanthropy. What partnership are you hoping to see in the future with NHL Seattle?
Well, when you build a building privately, you're going to have to be good at corporate partnerships, and that's not donation. You have to create a value proposition where a leading company will say, I want to put my marks and brands and associate them with the building and the team. And so we've tried to methodically build an enterprise here that's worthy of that kind of support. And then, you know, you're only as good as the company you keep. So if you associate with good brands, it comes back on you. When I went to Tampa, we were losing a lot of money, and we lost more because we actually walked away from $2 million of sponsorship my first year, because the companies were not companies that we or I were proud of. And so that was a great testament to that owner, because he understood that principle. And so it's a really important thing. We're right now engaged in building partnerships in the community and trying to create a value proposition that will not only attract a company as a partner, but want them to stay with us for the long haul.
You've held a lot of executive positions in your career. So
And hold a job.
I was just wondering, so what kind of advice or what kind of knowledge or skills would you recommend to people who are aspiring to be leaders?
Yeah, my journey is I didn't get to go to university. So I actually was really excited to come here tonight because, that's a great question that I very much want to answer, which is, so I grew up in a very small town in Missouri, had a tough upbringing. I lost a mother when I was 9 and lost my stepmother to cancer when I was 17. And it was not the path that, I would ever hope for someone else, but I worked my way out of there and literally went to work, but felt for a long time that I was kind of disadvantaged and didn't belong certain places. And then at some point in time, the switch flipped, and I realized that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. It certainly helps if you have a degree. It certainly helps if you have a master's degree. And so I salute you, but I say to everybody here, believe in yourself. The soccer team's here, and that's one great thing about sports. It's not always the fittest team that wins. It's not always the most skilled players that win. It's the teams that play together. And hockey is a great team sport. The players are on the ice for an average of about a minute. 4 lines shift in a seamless way. And it's really a team sport. And if they're playing as a team, they'll beat the other guys. And so I learned a lot of lessons about that. And I just encourage everybody that's here that if you believe in yourself and you believe in this great country where anything can happen if you put your mind to it, anything can happen.
I've also seen you've worked with a lot of stakeholders and you've prioritized fans, which brings me to a question about how do you balance profits with championships, knowing that fans will prioritize championships, but you also have some pressure to create some profit for the company. How do you balance both so you can be successful?
Yeah. Well, so in the NHL, there's a salary cap and a floor. When we start playing, the cap will probably be $90 or $95 million. We built our budget to be a cap team, and that's not the exception. Many of the teams in the NHL, I'd say the majority of the teams are cap teams, which makes all those other things I talked about really important, which is having great training facilities, having a great home rink, having really loyal, intense fans, having a great farm system and a great place to develop your players. And so if you don't win, and it's got to be the premise of everything you do, and that's really what happened at the Seahawks is when they started to win and they built that pedigree of winning, it's amazing what Pete Carroll and John Schneider have done there. And now it's in motion, and things like that tend to stay in motion. I didn't like the Patriots when I was with the Seahawks, but I came to really admire the organization when I was with the NFL because they draft last. So the whole system is meant to sort of punish them and bring them back into the pack, but somehow they've mastered this art. Players want to go play there, and they're willing to go there for maybe a little less money, and they're willing to finish their careers there. And it's, and Tom Brady is just an amazing quarterback. But, we have that going on here, too, in Seattle. I remember hiring Pete, and there were a lot of voices when it first happened saying, really, Pete Carroll? And I think he's proven to be a great coach. But one of the things that happened there is when we were originally looking for a general manager, then we realized that we were going to start afresh and just begin and try and create total alignment. But we hired Pete first, and then he weighed in on the finalists for the GM, and he actually helped pick his boss. And that alignment was there from day one, and it's really been a powerful ingredient in their winning.
So you've talked a lot about the fans, and very clearly Seattle is so special because we do have some of the most amazing fans, I think, obviously, around the world and in the country. So hockey is really unique, though, because I think Seattle and hockey, in my mind, when I heard we had an NHL franchise coming, I was super excited. But I was also kind of curious, how would NHL Seattle reach out to communities that might not necessarily connect with hockey based on just, culturally, that's not something that is present? What does NHL in Seattle have, looking forward to address that?
Well, it's a sport. It's actually, I admit, it's a bit of an acquired taste, and it's a sport that it's live. It's fantastic, and many people who see it live say it's the best live sporting experience. It's a little harder for people to understand just watching a game on TV, so you have to go out and develop. I'll tell a brief story, and part of how you develop is you look like the people that you want to encourage, and I've always believed that sports can make people better, like just participating in sports. And so I was down in Renton skating one day, and I saw this guy, and he was flying around the rink, and he was a really good skater, and he was an African-American guy, and you hate the stereotype, but I was surprised, so I caught up with him, and it took me like 3 laps, but I finally caught up to him, and lo and behold, we started talking, and I knew his dad. His dad was the team doctor of the Minnesota Wild. So on the ice, he pulls his phone out and calls his dad, and he said, "You'll not guess who I ran into here at the rink." He was a teacher at Lakeside High School, grew up in Minnesota. He was educated at Princeton, and his dad was talking to me. He said, "Hey, you got the wrong kid. It's my daughter who wants to talk to you." So I hung up the phone, and I said to Kyle, "Hey, you and your sister should come have coffee." Well, today she's our vice president of strategic planning, and he's the head of all of our youth hockey development, and they're fantastic. So the Boyd children are going to lead us in a powerful way, and I'm very proud of her. She represents diversity, but she is rocket smart, and someday could be the president of a team. She's just fantastic, and Kyle is a great educator. He taught at one of the best schools and gave up that career in education to come and lead our teaching. And he'll not just teach hockey, he'll teach life skills associated with sports.
So now we're going to go to questions from the audience.
Yeah,
Thank you, panelists. So the way this will work is there's a mic in each aisle. You'll need to raise your hand, and then they will try to bring you the mic.
Hi. I just have a general question. Have you guys picked a name for your team yet?
Wow.
My dad really wants to know.
So that's the other thing I pray about at night, actually. But, team names are really hard in this world. There's so many registered trademarks, and there's been a lot of history of picking names and having huge trademark issues. So that's the first one. But the Seattle Times did a poll, and they had 100,000 submissions. And there were over 1,000 unique names. One was the Seattle Socialites, the Seattle Head Tax. So I got through some of that pretty quickly, but there were a lot of legitimate names. And I'd say the most important thing we're doing is listening to the fans. So we hope to reveal the team names sometime after the first of the year. And we're going to take our time because we want to get it right, not only in picking the name and not only in the design, but making sure from a trademark standpoint that we don't have a false start. So if we pick the name February, let's say, that gives us tons of time to get the other things right, because then you design a jersey, and that's a really important process. And the owners will want to weigh in on all that, and how a jersey feels and how you pull it on. And there's actually been examples of teams who didn't get it right, and we don't want to be one of those teams.
Todd, the deal was you're going to tell us the name tonight. What do you mean?
Father Sundborg might get it out of me, but no one else here, all right?
Hi, saw you last night in Bellevue. Mentioned I grew up in Whatcom County, huge Canucks fan. I wonder if the franchise has any data that suggests how the fandom will break out between Vancouver and Seattle.
So Vancouver's actually closer than Portland, and so, but our cities haven't connected as much as they should. 2 magnificent cities. I was in Vancouver this weekend. So that's a fantastic part of what's going to happen here is our cities are going to connect at a whole nother level. And I think there's a lot that these cities can do in the future. There's talk of a dedicated rail system that would connect Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver. We think that there'll be some Canuck fans at our games. We think there are going to be a lot of Seattle fans at the Canucks arena. And so we're really excited by that, and it'll be an instant rivalry. I think that when they come, it'll feel a little bit different, and I think that that's just going to be great. But the original 6 will come, and we're going to stir up that rivalry because I think it'll be a lot of fun.
So I was wondering how you plan the team to invest in the community, like through any community service efforts or supporting local teams.
Well, one of the big commitments that was made when the arena was getting developed was youth care, which is youth homelessness. But, you know, every game we have an incredible opportunity, and all the music events as well. We'll have more music events than we will games. And so how do you take every one of those events? And we hired a woman named Mari Horita, who actually got her master's degree here in public administration. She was an attorney. She was not feeling fulfilled in her life, got a degree and headed up the Arts Fund, and we recruited her. She represents diversity. Her parents, she's a Japanese American, and she is building an incredible plan, because that's something that I think is a fundamental part of all teams. When I worked for the Seahawks, Paul Allen was already there. He saved the team, and it was for his hometown. And he let us do a lot of powerful community things. The Sounders are very community involved, and we're going to be the same. And it's one of the great things about this industry, because the players care, the owners care, the fans care, and you can do good.
One question I have is, I heard that one of the owners is Jerry Bruckheimer, producer. How did you manage to convince a Detroit native to get into a Seattle team? How did you get that?
Well, he loves hockey, and he's right now in China. He's got a new movie that's out, and he's really cool having him on our ownership team. He's really involved. He was involved in the recruitment of Ron Francis. And when we talk about community, we're going to try and get him to come up and do a premiere of his movie. And we'll charge good money for that, and we're going to put all the money to charity, and he's committed to helping us do a lot of community work. But, you know, this is a really great opportunity. John Meisenbach is here, and he's not a huge hockey fan yet. I believe by the third game, he's going to be complaining about our power play to me, all right? So, and he's entitled to do that because he's an owner. But, you know, Jerry looked at all the opportunities across, you know, the U.S. and said, oh my gosh, the chance to bring hockey to this beautiful city in Seattle in a brand new arena, and that's why he's here. And he's going to be a great, one of our great owners.
Hey, Todd, so you, over here, Todd, right in the corner.
Stand up and show everybody your jersey.
The jersey that you did call out,
Yeah.
so the Metropolitans, right?
Yeah. So, 1917, the Seattle Metropolitans won the Stanley Cup, played the team from Montreal, and it was the first U.S. team to win the Stanley Cup. If you look at his jersey, somebody said to me once, it's clear they were smoking a lot of pot back in 1917 as well. So.
Well, hey, Todd, my name is Jonathan West with the Seattle Totems junior team. And first, a quick comment. Love that NHL Seattle, in its first couple of months getting started, has really dove into the community, really listening to the fans. How does it look moving forward with the Everett Silvertips, the Seattle Thunderbirds, both successful junior teams, 16 to 20-year-old kids, that's who's next, and even some kids playing for the Totems trying to get a chance to get into that league. How does the partnership look with NHL Seattle, with those teams, and even potentially high school hockey, and maybe Seattle University having a team in the future?
Father, you want to come up and make But, you know, growing the game is really important. We have 4 junior A programs here. These are kids, as you said, 16 to 20 years old. They stay in people's homes and billet. It's the purest form of hockey. And it's the primary means in which players are drafted is from those junior programs all across North America. I think there's 45 junior A programs in North America. We're really proud of the teams we have here. I've gotten to know the folks at the Thunderbirds. I go to their games, and we're here to make all that better, and we have to. There was a kid who grew up in Arizona watching the Coyotes in the desert, and he's now the star of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and those dreams come true, and we hope someday that very thing will happen here, that some young kid will skate for their first time at our facility or one of the other rinks, and someday go on and be a star in the National Hockey League. And for that matter, our facility will also be open to figure skating and even curling. Have you ever curled? Okay, I'm glad, because it's normally associated with a lot of drinking, all right? And you seem to be a serious student. But But we're very committed to growing the game, and we're gonna really do a lot to do that.
Hi, Todd. What's a unique, innovative experience you'd like all the fans to have at your new arena?
Well, we want to declare, we really believe an enemy of a game experience are wait lines, and they shouldn't be that way. In fact, there will be enough concessions to feed the crowd in an expedited way, but it doesn't always balance out in a building. 5G is critical, so we've got to have a building that has the 5G capacity to then build the apps that then can direct the fans where to go, whether it be the restroom, whether it be concessions. People talk a lot about traffic, but the app is key to that. But we want the app not just to work in town, we want it to work in the building, and a lot of these buildings become dead spaces. And 5G is a really important part. And that's not just true for our games, but for all events. But we're going to certainly build an app for the team that we would hope it would be one of the best in sports, especially in this town.
I have a question kind of more on players, but being an expansion team, not a relocating team, what's your approach to getting your players to buy in, being that they likely will be removed from other teams and other living situations?
Well, Las Vegas launched 2 years ago, and that we have the same expansion rules they do. So we'll pick one player off of all teams, and those teams can protect a certain amount of forwards and defenders and goalies. Someone recently said, look, you just need 3 really good centermen, 4 really good defenders, and 1 goalie, and you can kind of fill in around that. But what happened in Las Vegas is they were the players that the other teams gave up on for some reason. And then they came together and they went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year. The other thing that's had a unique motivation there is there was a terrible tragedy that happened in Las Vegas. And that was the only professional team, and arenas become the gathering places for communities. And that's a key role. And so that tragedy happened just before the beginning of their season. And they completely changed what they had planned for opening night. And they played that night under the banner of Vegas Won. And they became leaders in helping that town heal. And it really had this unbelievable motivating factor on the team. And if you talk to the players after the season, it was a reason that they played with just a little bit more. And they went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, did not win, but they're playing great again this year. And I would hope that those favorable rules will aid us in building a great team as well.
If we talk about the NHL, it's probably the most expensive ticket in all the sports. So you've got 32,000 people in 32,000 seats. How do we get the average person who can't afford that to experience hockey? I think when you check with Vegas, the cheapest it is to get on the 100 level.
Yeah. So we were just talking about tickets earlier, and you're going to buy some of those expensive seats, all right? And, yeah. So it's a really legitimate question, and in fact, we just announced today that our club seats are going on. The question was, how do you make games accessible? And building a privately financed building, we knew we weren't going to have bargain basement prices across the board. But we're soon going to reveal our general ticketing plan. Tim Booth is back here. He's a reporter. He said all this is off the record, but I'll reveal a little bit of, we're going to have a very innovative ticket plan. We're going to have tickets under $60, and we're going to have $20 seats, and we're going to have a lot of them. Relatively speaking, a lot of them. Those $20 seats, when Montreal plays here, would go in the secondary market or with brokers for $100 or $200. So we've got to make sure that if we're pricing tickets below market, that they go to the right people. And it's really important to us. And so I commend our ownership for having, yes, we're going to have expensive club seats, and the club is going to be spectacular, but I'm very proud of the amount of tickets we're going to have under $60, and specifically hundreds of $20 seats. We've got to make sure that they go to the right people. And And it's important. There's a whole industry of ticket brokers who take tickets like that and make a living off of that. And I applaud them. I guess at the end of the day, we're ticket brokers, all right? But we're building the arena and doing other things. I don't begrudge the ticket brokers, but those seats need to go to families and others who otherwise wouldn't go to a game. And I was a poor kid. I went to a Blues game as a kid, and it had a real impact on me and the love of the game.
Question in the back here. There are a lot of students in the room today that I'm sure are interested in perhaps working for NHL Seattle. I'm just curious where you're at in the process and how students might get involved with potential employment opportunities.
Yeah, so we're going to hire, and there'll be an orderly process in which we do it. We're today, 41 with Eric Pettigrew, but we'll end up with a staff of about 200. But then we'll hire hundreds of people to work at the building on game day. And, I started at the very bottom selling tickets in a boiler room and never lost the passion for doing that. So if you have an interest, there's lots of ways to get involved. You can apply for internships, which are fantastic. You can apply for a full-time job. In fact, she's going to at the end. Are you going to, did you bring your resume? All right. And then there's just the experience of working in the building, but it's not just those. There's going to be a whole broadcast piece. There's the whole food and beverage experience. There's the whole music side. And so it's become a vast industry, and it's a great industry. We were talking about community, and I went to the Super Bowl and the Stanley Cup Finals and lost in both. Painful, but what I really love about this business is the ability to give back and give back to community on a regular basis. So if it's something you're interested in, it is a great business, and I encourage you, just go in and fight, get your resume in, and we're going to hire 160 people.
Hi, over here.
This is the last question, by the way.
With the confirmation of the opening season for the NHL team, what is the next steps for bringing the NBA back to Seattle?
Well, so first, if it comes, every NBA fan owes a debt of gratitude to the NHL because they got the building done, and that was the missing piece here. And my life won't be fulfilled until we bring the NBA back. But what we've got to be is patient, and we've got to be respectful, and we have to be careful because we can't put the league in an uncomfortable position or ever get in front of the league. But they know what's going on here. They saw the ticket deposits. They see this grand building coming out of the ground. They now know it's not a renovation. And all the principles that make it great for music and hockey will be the same principles that are going to make it an incredible basketball building for the Storm and someday the NBA.
Let's thank Tod Leiweke for being with us tonight. Thank you, Tod, and thank you, audience. Next Speaker Series event is November 17th, I believe. So hopefully we'll see many of you back here for that. Thank you.